Okay.
That was Willie.
Willie
Willie.
Banks.
Hi, Willie. That's what I thought it was.
All right, folks. I think we'll get started now. So I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone, and gonna spotlight myself for just a few moments here while we get everything started. So thank you all for coming. I'd like to welcome you to the virtual Pasadena Senior Center. This is the first of our new monthly Cynthia Rosedale Memorial Sports Talk series, Ask the Athletes. I'm Annie Lasky, the Director of Events here at the Pasadena Senior Center, and I've managed the Pasadena Senior Games since I came on board at the center in 2017. I want to give a very special welcome to our guests, Dick Fosbury, Willie Banks, and Linda Cohn, as well as the moderator for today's program, Ann Warner-Cribbs. Special greetings as well to those of you who are new to the Pasadena Senior Center's online programs. We offer a full calendar of online stuff, classes, lectures, discussions, concerts, parties, and in fact, our winter quarter classes started today. So you can still sign up for all sorts of different things, from fitness to art to discussion groups. If you're not already on our mailing list, I encourage you to go to our website, pasadena-seniorcenter.org, and sign up to get our weekly emails. It doesn't matter where in the world you are, you can join an online program. So lots of great stuff coming up. For those of you not familiar with us, the Pasadena Senior Center is a recreation and resource center. We've been serving the community since 1960. We're an independent nonprofit organization. We're donor and member supported. We appreciate all of the support, especially in these difficult times. Our facility remains virtually closed, and we have to engage our community online. Today's program is named in honor of one of the Senior Center's staunchest supporters, whose legacy continues to fund our programs as well as inspire them. Cynthia Rosedale was the longtime director of events for the Pasadena Senior Center. A tireless advocate for senior wellness, Cynthia brought the Pasadena Senior Games to the center in 1994, when these athletic competitions for older adults were just beginning to spread across the nation. While we're still limited in what we can safely do in person, we celebrate Cynthia's power and vision by connecting virtually. Ask the Athletes. This new program is a monthly program. It's co-presented by the California Senior Games Association with assistance from the San Diego Senior Games. We have sessions scheduled on second Mondays all the way through to December. February 8th, the topic will be pickleball, and March 8th, we will be talking about swimming. I hope you'll join us for those two and continue on. Our hope is that even after the world opens up and we can compete again, we'll still be able to bring these virtual programs to you. Now, to the program at hand. During the presentation, audience microphones will be muted, but you are welcome to put your questions and observations using the chat function. You will also have a chance to unmute at the end for a question and answer period. And also, if any of you have problems with reception or get knocked out of the event for any reason, this program will be posted a little later on the California Senior Games Association website, californiaseniorgames.org, and I'll put that in the chat in a few minutes. It is now my privilege to introduce the moderator of today's program, Ann Warner-Cribbs. She is the chair of the California Senior Games Association and the head of the Bay Area Senior Games and the Encore Games. She asked me that would be the only thing I would say about her, and I will just add that she is so much more, as well as one of the nicest people I have ever met. So please join me in welcoming Ann Warner-Cribbs, who will be our moderator for today.
Thank you, Annie. That was a great introduction. I really appreciate it. And thanks for telling everybody how we're going to operate today. I'm going to give you back the authority to admit people so that I don't have to do that at the same time. At any rate, I want to tell you how excited I am to see all of you online, and also to thank my good friends Willie Banks, Dick Fosbury, and now Linda Cohen, as with their help of joining us as panelists. It's really great to have them. We talked about track and field being the kickoff of this, and I figured that I could get these stars to be online with us, and that would guarantee a good attendance. So just a little bit about the California Senior Games Association Board of Directors. We manage and kind of coordinate 7 games in California up and down the state, from Sonoma to San Diego to Palm Desert, Pasadena, Palo Alto, Visalia, and got a great group of coordinators. We have about 14,000 people in our database. And this is really our attempt during this time of COVID to reach out to the athletes that we love and love to see train, and say, hey, we're all still here. We're all trying in different ways to continue to be not only competitive, but to stay in shape. And so it's just my pleasure to welcome all of you, and to welcome Dick and Willie and Linda as well. So what I wanted to do, and we've got so many gregarious people on this show, is to ask a couple of questions. And I'd like to start with Linda, and then go to Willie, and then go to Dick, since people already have talked a little bit to Dick. The first question is about you. Tell us about your athletic career and what you're doing right now. So Linda, let's start with you, because you come to us with an incredible reputation as a Senior Games athlete. Linda?
Unmute, Linda.
Linda, turn your mute off. Okay, Linda, go down to the bottom of the screen over to the left and unmute. There's a
got it.
line there.
I
You got it? Okay, perfect.
I got it.
Great. Good.
Okay. My track and field career started at the age of 50. My goal was to compete in the Senior Games. And even though there's a variety of different sports, to me, the Olympics was always track and field. So I kind of randomly decided to eliminate all the running events, and I'd had a pretty good arm since I'd played softball before, and I thought I would choose a throwing event. My choice to learn how to throw the javelin was totally random. I ruled out shot put. I thought it was too heavy. I thought the discus was more like a frisbee and it wasn't interesting. So really what I thought was, I'm going to learn how to throw that stick. And what that totally random choice seemed to be what I was destined to do. I started in the Senior Games just to participate. I wanted to participate, to feel like an Olympian. And that was my original goal. And then I wanted to win. And then I heard about all these other track meets, national track meets, international track meets. And then you could set United States records and then world records. And so my goals have changed throughout the years. And the javelin is my main event. That's the one where I've been the most successful. But I also compete in all kinds of other track and field events. I do shot put, discus, long jump, triple jump, 100 meter, 50 meter. And I am an absolutely terrible hammer thrower, but it's still fun to do.
Hey, Linda, I'm just gonna, can you talk a little bit louder or a little bit closer to your microphone?
I could yell.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope you heard me because I don't remember what I said.
Well, it was all great. And one of the things that I'm sure a lot of people on this call know about Linda is that she's a great coach and always has time to help her fellow athletes. So we're really happy that you're here. Let's jump now to Willie. Your athletic career, Willie, and what you're doing right now.
Well, first of all, Ken Stones reminded everyone that Linda was inducted into the Hall of Fame recently, or so just want to congratulate her. Fantastic. I hope you all are,
Thank you.
that's a very big honor, and congratulations. So my career, if I was to explain to anyone my career, I would just say it's a series of luck and blessings. I just had such a wonderful career starting when I was in 6th grade, when one of my friends said, "Hey, let's go to this track meet. It's the Optimist track meet." And I was like, first of all, what are the Optimists? And second of all, what is a track meet? And my parents took me up and to the high school, and I entered into the 50-yard dash, the high jump, and the long jump. And I took a second in the high and the long, and a third in the 50. And I was like, this is awesome. You know, they give you a little ribbon. I was like, I'm doing this. And so in 7th grade, I did it. And I really liked the high jump. When I was younger, my parents actually thought there was something wrong with me because I was jumping on things and going crazy. So they took me to a doctor, psychiatrist, to find out what was wrong with me. And he said, there's nothing wrong. Just put him in sports and he'll calm down. And so that's what happened. So in 8th grade, I really got good in the high jump, went to high school. I was doing high jump. And then all of a sudden they introduced my junior year a thing called a triple jump. And it just fit me like a glove. And again, I was blessed because one of the high school teachers was actually a national champion during the Second World War. And so he actually taught me how to do the triple jump the right way. And I from that time on, I did not lose a track meet until, until I graduated. Well, I lost once, but until I graduated, I was a 2-time state champion. Anyway, from there, I went on to break the world record. And but my real claim to fame, for those of you who are not track aficionados, is what we call, I kind of gave track and field the clap. So we'll talk about that later, but thank you. Dick.
Oh my goodness, Willie. Thank you very, very much. And just before we leave you, talk about your World Olympians relationship.
Okay, yeah, I serve on several. I have served, and I served on several boards. I work with Dick, and he'll tell you probably about World Olympians. I worked with Dick on the World Olympians Association, and then I was actually appointed to the World Olympians Association, which is an organization that works as an alumni group, quote unquote alumni group, for the International Olympic Committee, as well as I was elected to the World Athletics Council, which is the International Federation for Track and Field. And by way of that election, I was also, I now also serve on the United States Track and Field Federation Board of Directors. So I am blessed. So many people who voted for me and encouraged me to run. I just thank you so much. And some are probably on this call today. Well, I know of at least one, so thank you.
Well, I'm glad we mentioned that, because that's a really big deal. It's great for the United States. Willie's a terrific representative, and track and field is really, really, really lucky to have him, as are the World Olympians. So let's go on to Mr. Dick Fosbury. Dick.
Yeah, thanks, Ann. You hear me okay?
Yep.
So I'm like Linda and Willie because I started out playing all sports, trying different things from, and I grew up in Medford, Oregon, Southern Oregon, which had a really strong athletic tradition. But I played American football. Basketball was always my favorite sport. And then I picked track and field when we had to decide between baseball and track. And our coaches would have us try everything, run, jump, and throw. In the 5th and 6th grade, we threw the softball because they didn't trust us with a javelin for good reason. And I threw the shot put, I long jumped. We didn't have the hop, step, and jump in our school system. And in the high jump, our teacher taught us both the scissors and the straddle, or the Western roll. And I immediately was attracted to the scissors because it was simple and my body could stay upright. I was tall in grade school and all the way through the school system. So that was kind of a natural. And I really didn't learn or practice seriously with the Western roll until I got into high school, when our sophomore basketball coach, who was the head track and field coach, saw me practicing, and the very first day he chewed me out for using the scissors until he learned that that's the style that I'd always competed with. And he gave me a quick lesson that the scissors was not efficient and I wasn't going to be able to keep up and compete with the other jumpers. So he taught me the Western roll, and I worked at that for a couple of months, and I was terrible. Part of it because I'm learning a new technique, starting over, but I just couldn't get it. And so I went back to the scissors, and in the next meet, I was so motivated to stop losing in every meet that I just intuitively started to figure out how to go over from a sitting up position to laying out flat on my back, going over the bar sideways, and landing in wood chips from the state of Oregon. We had a lot of logging and surplus wood chips all the time. So that's what I was landing in, and that really worked. The first day I tried it, I improved half a foot and placed, even scored 1 point in the meet. So that's what got me on my journey to develop a new technique in the high jump.
So Dick, when you got to Mexico City, right, and you had to practice, right, with other high jumpers around you, did they say anything about your technique? Did they ask you? Did the officials ask you what was going on?
Yeah, really good question. You know, in those days, so I first started developing the flop in 1963 in my sophomore year in high school. So by the time I got to the Olympics in '68, I had it really dialed in and had made the Olympic team, and we were leading the world for performance. But you know, I was never a practice jumper. I love to train and work on my strength and jumping ability, but I hated to jump. But my coach was there and he made me go get in some practice jumps. And we had several training fields where we could go. And the day that I went there, the only other high jumper was the Russian, who was a medal contender, and he couldn't speak English. And of course, I couldn't speak Russian, but we shared we had a huge rainstorm and got under the cover to get us out of the rain. And we talked about the problems in Mexico politically. Didn't really talk about our technique, but he had seen me because he toured indoors that winter in January, February, and we competed against each other. So he knew what he was going to be competing against, and we'd watched each other or followed our careers that summer. But the biggest arguments that I got into was with the other coaches. The German coaches and Russian coaches were very insistent that the flop would never succeed. The technique that Valerie Brumel, who was the world record holder at the time, that he had perfected was the best, and nobody could ever beat that. You know, my only response was to shrug my shoulders and say, well, you know, I'm just going to use what I know how to do, and it all worked out for the better. But there were skeptics for another decade about the flop, and just that it was so different and unusual. But the high jumpers really were the ones that proved that it could work. The young ones and the jumpers who were kind of on the fringe and not really successful, they had less to lose by shifting their style or technique and trying something that was new to see if it would work for them.
Well, I think pretty much it's worked out okay, you know.
It did, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, you know, everybody's talking now about in this time of COVID, what are we all doing, both physically and mentally, to, you know, to keep in shape and to really be able to address the effects of isolation. You know, in our age group, people aren't supposed to have their kids come to see us because they might bring us something. And it's just, it's a challenging time, not just for us, but for everybody. So Linda, what are you doing mentally and physically to keep in shape?
Well, it's an unusual time for sure, but what's happened is a lot of us have more time than we used to before. I personally am taking advantage of it, and I think everyone should spend some of that time on our personal fitness. Might not be in our sport or our event specifically, but to get your general fitness level up as much as you can, I think is important, not only physically, but mentally. Gyms aren't open. I'm well aware of that. I now work as a personal fitness trainer, so I know about that. But we can still go outside. We can walk, we can get outside and do something. And walking is not a bad form of exercise. I'm not talking about walking around and around and doing the same thing. You can vary your walking workouts. You can go up hills, you can go faster, you can go slower. But doing that and doing that on a daily basis really makes a difference mentally as well as physically.
So when you talk about recommending, how many hours, how many minutes, how many hours a day do you recommend?
Okay, as a fitness instructor or as a senior games participant?
I would say both.
Okay, well, actually, I have taken up rowing as my daily exercise regime. I work on a hydro machine, which is a great rowing machine, and I don't have to get wet. But I row now, I'm rowing around 45 minutes a day.
That's great.
It's a great exercise. It's fun. And yet that is not a weight bearing exercise. So I still recommend going outside and walking around, doing things like that.
Good advice. Willie, what about you?
Well, thank you, Anne. And like a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot of people, but I've gained my COVID-19. But I actually, in the very beginning of the pandemic, I decided that I would join an effort to raise money for the Leukemia Society. And in order to do that, in order to raise a little bit of money, I decided I would do push-ups. And that was probably a silly idea, but I wound up doing 5,000 push-ups in 40 days. And it was great for me because it helped me stay in shape, but that ended in June. And so that's when the COVID-19 started to creep up. But fortunately, COVID paid me a visit in December, and I was sick for about I don't know, for about 5 days, and then afterwards, it took me a little while to recover, and so I lost quite a bit of weight, and now I'm about to where I was when I started. So one of the things that I did in between was I did a lot of walking, and I started hiking with a bunch of Marines, and we go up into the mountains in San Diego, and we hike all over the place, 9, 10, 11 miles each weekend, and it was really good for me. I haven't done any jumping or sprint work, but I think my strength in my legs and like Linda said, my mental strength is just, off the charts for my age, I believe. So, and as an athlete and as a coach, I believe that the mental aspect of what we do as
Mhm.
senior athletes is more critical than the physical, because as your mental strength is what takes you the longest and keeps you strong. So I think that, like Linda said, getting out, walking, doing something for your mental strength is more important than having to go every day and work out with weights or something like that. So that's what I'm
Well,
doing.
that's really well said, and I'm thinking about some of the people that I've known, and I'm sure you guys have too, who have either had to lay off, not been able to get to a gym, not be able to work out in their sport, and come back, and actually, because of their mental preparedness, have done as well or better than they would have just doing the same old routine. So it's very, very interesting to kind of contemplate all of that. Dick, what about you?
Yeah, thanks. And well, this is obviously a year where we've all learned to adapt. And I live now in a ski resort area called Sun Valley in Idaho. So I'm at elevation a mile high. We've got some fresh snow, almost a foot in the yard. And I'm isolated because I'm lucky to live on a 20-acre farm. So we have horses and dogs and cats, and I get my outside time, but I've had a big challenge because of my work. I just got elected to a second term as county commissioner, and I'm buried with work. So mental and physical health is critically important. And I learned from college that I love to train. And so around here, Idaho was one of the first hard hit states. We got infected from a wedding party from Seattle, Washington, and we got hit hard. Blaine County was one of the worst infected in the entire United States for several weeks. We had a shutdown, stay home order. We recovered from that, and we've hit our second spike and survived that. But the hospitals have been overrun, like what you're going through now in California, and it's really a big challenge. But what I say to parents and kids and adults is to spend some time outdoors, and regardless of the restrictions, find a way to go for a walk and get some exercise. Our gyms are open still. We have a scaled down policy so that it's safe. Our YMCA changed their ventilation system to try to have an antiviral environment. So we're really lucky, but everybody's still being very cautious. So I'm not getting enough exercise, but I'm getting enough. And so I completely agree with what Linda and Willie are saying. I shoot for a half an hour a day for a maintenance program. And then as I get more time on the weekends, then I'll be outside and, be out fixing the fence or taking the dogs for a hike up in the foothills, something like that, to get some good exercise, stay hydrated, and take your supplements to raise your immune system so that you can combat this virus, which is really a big challenge. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, it's so fun because you guys are all great athletes in your own right. But as I said earlier in the program, I think before a lot of people were on, all three of you also are coaches. And so I wanted to pick your brain a little bit and just talk a little bit about if you have any secret training tips from the experts or anything that you would suggest. I don't know that the majority of people on the call are track and field athletes, although we specifically invited our track and field list, but I'm sure that there are some swimmers on the call, and I think there probably are some water polo, table tennis players, and other sports, maybe soccer, maybe cycling. And so just if you have any Linda Cohen or Dick Fosbury or Willie Banks training tips about either your sport or just in general, especially, and not just in the time of COVID, but looking forward when we all get out of this jail that we're in. How do we do that in the future? So Willie?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. And I like to talk about different training techniques, but there's three things that I really think are important for an athlete, not just a senior athlete, but elite youth. And that is what we were talking about before, of course, is mental training. And I spend a lot of time mental training and preparing my athletes mentally. And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand about mental training when they talk about, image training and those kinds of things, those are all good. But I think what I'd like to espouse here is that when you do your mental training, or when you focus on just going out and exercising, and you should use what I call your conscious mind to focus on your training. Focus with your conscious mind on your training. But when you perform, you should use your subconscious mind, because as you know, your subconscious mind can do much, much more and can do that perfectly. Whereas your conscious mind can really only do about four things, and they can only do it just, just average. So I think the effect is this: like every coach, when you're coaching a kid and you say something to the kid and the kid starts focusing on that one thing, and it throws them off of their whole performance. It's better just to say, just go out and have fun, or just don't think about anything and just do what you do in practice, because then the athlete stops thinking about the issue and just performs. The subconscious mind takes over and does it perfectly. Same thing with a senior athlete. So I would encourage you to do that. The second thing is that if you're going to be training, and say you have a subpar day, or say you're in a rut, I always tell my athletes to get away from the track, get away, spend a week or two doing something else: basketball, swimming, rowing, something completely different. Because what that does is it allows the body to adjust, because your body needs time to get rid of the mistakes that it makes. And the subconscious will take the mistakes and throw those out, and will focus on just the good parts when it is not performing. So if you can just get away and do something that is fun for you. What I usually do is I go and I do Zumba, which is just going and doing dance fitness. I have a great time, love it. And then I come back and I jump much better. The third thing is remembering that rest is training. So I have a lot of athletes, they think that the more they train, the better they're going to be. And then they wonder why they either get hurt or they get in a rut or something like that. And I always tell them that rest is training. So if you're going to train hard, you need to rest hard. If you're going to train easy, you need to rest easy. So it's a way to allow your body to catch up with itself. So those different little techniques, those three things, I think can improve your performance every time.
Wow, that's great, Willie. I'm taking notes like mad over here. It's great. It's good. And I especially appreciate your mentioning swimming too. Linda, what about you?
Well, I appreciate everything Willie just said, and I am going to take all of that to heart. What I'd like to talk about in terms of training, the event that I chose to do, the javelin, is a very technique-laden event, and it's very difficult to learn how to do the proper technique. I suggest to anyone who's interested in learning how to do it that they watch YouTubes. YouTubes are great, and not just YouTubes of really great throwers, but watch the how-to YouTubes, how to throw the javelin. There's a lot of good information there. We as senior athletes tend to take a lot of that into our head, and then there's like a cutoff from our head to our body, and we think we're doing what we saw on that YouTube, and it's not necessarily happening. So there's nothing like in-person training and coaching. And you mentioned I'm a coach, and where I do most of my coaching is at the track meets. Track and field athletes, especially field athletes, are very friendly with each other. We spend a lot of time together, and I am more than willing. It's just something, you know, I'm not the coach, but I will coach you. If I see you're doing something kind of unusual and you want help, I'm more than willing to help you. And there's nothing like someone in person helping you. But I would suggest to people, those that are swimming, those that are doing all these other events, consider doing a track and field event in addition to what you do. It's just more fun. Track and field is a lot of fun. I personally love it. It has added so much to my life, and I know it would add to yours. I will coach people to the point where I've coached someone with the long jump who then wound up beating me at that event. And let me just say that long legs are an asset.
That's great. Thank you, Linda. That's perfect. And Dick?
Yeah, thanks. I love these discussions because I'm always learning something. For example, you know, when Willie's talking about rest is training, and of course you can categorize sleep the same way. It's really important to get adequate rest. But one of my coaches and fellow athletes that I used to train with taught me, because he knew that I was hard to get to exercise on a regular basis. And he knew that I was a businessman, I owned my company, and he turned it so that he said, what I need to do is make an appointment with myself, and that's my session, so that I block that time out so that I can get out every day or every other day to get some exercise at least 4 days a week. And so, you know, thinking about rest as being your training, and make an appointment so that you have a regular schedule, because there's nobody more, relatively speaking, that one of the very most important parts of your life is you. Also, there's your family and your spouse and your partner and all of that, but you need to take time for yourself. But on the training side, because I live in the mountains, I love elevation. And so I really like the rowing machine. I am not a swimmer and don't get in the pool, but I like the stair climber. And because I could always get a really good sweat and good aerobic conditioning with that. But I'm into anti-gravity and always looking at a variety of exercise, because to me it's recreation. It's the way that we recreate ourselves and we create our health system by play. And so for me, practice is always a time for me to go play, and that's what I look forward to. So those are kind of the key words for me to make sure that I get enough exercise.
That's great, Dick. And I love the appointment with yourself. That's terrific. Terrific.
Yeah.
Yep. So before we go to the audience for a couple of questions, I have one last question for you three. And it's really a very short answer. What has been your very favorite competitive moment? And you only get one, Willie. Your favorite competitive moment. Let's start with Linda.
You know, you gave me like 2 seconds to think of this, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I
something
did.
come to mind. My very favorite competitive moment, even after doing it now for 18 years, was when I first started, when I was on my first javelin runway, and I was standing there and I was getting ready to throw. I was in tears. I was so emotional. It was the culmination of like a lifelong dream. To me, it was my Olympics. And there were two women standing next to me who gave me a hug. They had no idea why I was crying. But that right there kind of encapsulates what track and field means to me. Not only is it something that just calls to me and means a great deal to me, but it's those friends that I have met through track and field. Those two women I still see every year at the same track meet. And I have developed so many friendships just like that. But you asked me one single
Oh
moment.
no, I lost my connection. Hey, how was school?
Oh,
Oops.
Yeah,
Whoops.
what happened there? That was anyway. That is my answer.
you're asking the wrong
Well, that's a
person.
great answer. Thank you. That's perfect. Annie,
Yeah, they're
Can
at
you-
Roku.
can you
Or
mute
the one out
everybody?
there.
That's the Simpsons.
All right. Well, let's go to Dick and see if we can mute everybody else. Dick, your
Yeah.
favorite moment.
Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
No, you're perfect.
Okay, so my favorite competitive moment was the Olympic trials. It's always the biggest competition to try to make the team, and
Mhm.
that was a threshold moment for me.
Yep. Absolutely. And Willie?
And I think it's very unfair that you won't let us have more than one.
Well, I might have another question. So, but you could have two, and then we'll go
I
back
am
around.
going to say I changed my background to show you the Stockholm Stadium where the clap began. And I have to say that that was probably my favorite moment. It was just unbelievable. But I got to say that Linda, there's a close second, and that was when I won my first senior games medal. So I understand the emotional attachment. And believe me, you know, as an elite athlete, as an Olympian, as a world record holder, there's nothing better than coming back after 10 years or 15 years of not competing and winning a medal. It's like, holy crap, this is a lot of fun.
And so, Willie, can you, for our friends who are not track and field athletes, can you do just a really quick about how the clap did what it did?
No,
No, you can't do that. Okay, well, we'll send everybody to your bio, right?
well, I can just say this. the clap emanated from me learning that sport it should be fun and entertaining. And I learned that lesson from 5 drunk Swedes who were in this stadium watching me jump in a competition back in 1981. And because of the fun that they were having, drinking and watching me jump, just turned the stadium into a bunch of standing and clapping people, Swedes, who encouraged me to jump. And I jumped several records that day. And from that day on, every time people watched me jump, they would clap like this, a rhythmic clap. And it became my signature. And after I started to leave, more and more young people copied it. And so every time you go to a track meet, you'll see kids, encourage the crowd to clap. Well, not only kids, but also elite athletes. So you can read my bio for the long version, which I think is much better.
Well, I think the short version is great, but I think the long version is great as well. So thank you very much for that. So I wondered, since I was asking all the questions, are there any questions you want to ask of each other before we go to the audience? And Annie, do you see any questions in the chat? But let's let these guys ask each other if they have anything.
Wow. Again, you're stunning us. I just appreciate everything I heard from these 2 gentlemen. I learned a lot today. I'm really glad to have watched them today. Thank you.
That's great. Great. Dick?
So I have a question, Anne. So Linda, I might have missed this. Do you try other events in addition to just the jab? I thought you did, but I might have missed that. So you're still training for different events also?
Okay, we have to separate those answers. Yes, I do a lot of other events. I typically compete in 6 different events at each track meet. I train for the javelin. The others I do just on natural athletic ability, and I want to win, but it helps if you train. But yes, I like to diversify. If I just did one event, it wouldn't be nearly as much fun as it is for me now.
I agree.
Right.
Thank you.
So
Willie?
I would like to ask both Linda and Dick, is there anyone that you looked to as your hero or a person that got you involved in the sport?
Okay. I'll answer that slightly differently than the way you're asking it. For some reason, there was something inside of me that was always drawn to the Summer Olympics and track and field. It just captivated me. So it wasn't a person that inspired me to do it. I just, for some reason, I think was meant to do this. But what I do want to say is some of the people who have inspired me most in my life, I have met through track and field. Too many to name, but they are very important to me and very inspirational.
Yeah, I think you're right, Linda. I completely agree. This goes way back to high school, Willie, but our library in high school had track and field news, a subscription, and I would pour through that. And one of the things, my hero was Valerie Brumell, #1, and then John Thomas, #2,
yeah.
American record holder and Olympian. And what inspired me is I read about Brumell in an interview that he said his advantage against his competitors is that he was stronger and he could run faster to the bar to be able to jump higher. And up until that point, I've been very casual on my approach in the high jump, and I kind of bounded up to the bar and not really running fast. And I adopted that technique, and that really changed my performance and continued to help me advance. But a Russian Brumel was my hero.
Fantastic. Thanks.
That is fantastic. Well, Annie, let me ask you, do you have any questions?
I'll just say that I'm not an athlete, and I have been writing down everything you have said because it absolutely is part of everything I do. So, and as someone who runs the senior games, every year I'm determined to take up some sport. And I have to say, Linda, next time we're on the field, I've always wanted to throw a javelin. So I'm coming to you.
You got it.
But I really just, to start this off, I no specific questions. I just want to really thank you because it's very inspiring even to folks like us who are around and enjoy watching sports, but do not yet participate in them. So, and I'm sitting here crying, I have to say, because it's just all so moving.
Well, I think that I think that we're pretty excited. Kristen Cummings from San Diego is on the watching all of this, and the three of us were the ones that did the planning for this. And I think we had a little bit of trepidation that it might not work. People might not show up. People might not have anything good to say. And we were clearly all wrong. I am so thrilled at how this went. You guys have set the standard for pickleball and swimming and cycling and on and on and on. And I can't tell you how much I personally appreciate you're doing this, being here, and all of that. So I'm gonna, Linda, put you guys on the spot one more time with one short word of wisdom to the athletes on the call. Dick, words of wisdom to share.
Well, we do what we do best when we love it and we have a passion. And so always follow your heart in what you want to do, and don't, from my perspective, I like to have things easy. Don't sweat yourself to death. Sweat yourself to joy and have fun in what you're doing. That's what'll help you if you don't have a coach like Linda to watch you every day.
That's great. Thank you, Linda.
What my words of advice, not words of wisdom, words of advice, sign up. To all those people that I'm trying to get to participate in track and field, so many of you say, oh, I'm going to train, I'm going to work out, and then I will. Don't. Sign up as soon as we're able to, as soon as there's a meet, sign up. Learn what you can before you come. I'm more than happy to help you when you're there, but I'm telling you, it's something that will greatly enhance your life. Just do it.
Great. Thank you. That's perfect. And Willie, last words.
I did see that Mara Schaefer was asking a question about what she would do after COVID, and and how she would prepare for track. And I think that probably Linda just answered that. You should probably sign up and start working with a club. If not, then find your local association and prepare for the senior games, because I think that would be a wonderful thing to motivate you and to keep you excited about the sport. One final word, I guess, is for track and field especially, this sport is such a sharing sport. I like to call it a sport that shares. Coaches share their wisdom, athletes share their love of the sport. It's just such a wonderful sport to be a part of. Even though it's competitive, people love to talk. And just as Linda stood on the podium next to two young ladies who, hugged her, it's the same no matter what level of athlete you are. It's about your performance. It's about you being able to conquer your fear and to conquer your limitations. And when you can do that, it's an emotional thing, and it's so wonderful. And that's why I stayed in the sport so long. Win, lose, or draw, I knew I was going to have friends next to me talking to me about, all the great things that we did. So, if you get involved in this sport and you stay in it, it's just going to be a wonderful thing for your psyche. So, COVID notwithstanding, when this is all over, I hope to see you all at the senior games.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Annie, can you tap the person who's raised their hand? I don't know exactly how to do that.
Yeah, so I have, let's see, I am now, we will allow people to unmute, but we'll call on the folks who have their hands raised. And if you can scroll through the chat, Anne, and look at the questions that have come up there. So we'll take first two questions. So Steve Oman, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sure. First, I'd like to say to the Ann twins and your third partner for setting up this amazing event today, because it's the closest I'll get to a virtual Chariots of Fire moment. And to say to the three special guests, you can't tell because I got a space helmet on, but all three of you look younger than I do, but I know on age I'm younger than you three. And that's amazing enough too. Real quick, just to Linda and Willie, but because Dick mentioned his heroes, if Linda and Willie could mention maybe their heroes as they were getting into their sports. But then to Dick, I'm an Oregonian too, buddy. And as a Beaver, I'm proud that you were jumping into wood chips, but they have pillows in Oregon too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Right.
Okay, hey, thank you for those. I'm not able to find those, Annie, for some
Okay.
reason. I see three participants raise their hands, so I'll turn this over to you and then I'll come back to say goodbye to everybody, okay?
Let me
Okay.
answer the question. The question was our heroes. My hero was Jerry Culp. He was a high jumper, and he's the one who motivated me to be a high jumper when I was in 8th grade.
Great.
Nice. Okay, hopefully I'll pronounce your name right. Khadija, is that?
It's me. Thank you, everyone, for providing this platform, first and foremost. And I'm just going to echo what the first caller said. So I'm in San Diego. I've been looking at the Senior Games thing since I was 45. Don't laugh. But I just found out, recently, during the COVID, that everything got kind of postponed and delayed. I am curious about the qualification criteria. I read on the website how it's supposed to go, but I need some clarity on signing up. I think because I didn't qualify because I wasn't participating at the time, I have to wait to sign up at a certain time for, I guess, a particular event. And I am interested in the long jump and high jump, and also another event. So I've been looking for track clubs. I have not been successful in the San Diego. I'm actually in East Lake Chula Vista, so I'm very south. I have looked for, track and field places at the schools, but everything's shut down. So I'm feeling a little frustrated and like there's some roadblocks and I'm trying to get over them. So if anyone could give me any insight and share, and I can take my answer offline, or you could send me an email and whatnot on how to get started.
I can give you a quick answer to the qualification for the National Senior Games, which are currently scheduled to be in Fort Lauderdale in November and December of 2021. And so what's going to happen is in a short time, there will be an outline on how to qualify because we've had such an unusual situation, and we're going to take people who've qualified in 2017 and 2018 past games and allow them to enter first. And then there'll be a second registration that will be for people who didn't have an opportunity to enter or whose state is able to host a senior games this particular year. I suspect California will not be able to host anything this year to qualify. But the philosophy that we've been working on is that we want as many people as possible to participate in the next senior games where we can all come together and enjoy sport, because there are going to be some people who are going to be anxious about it. There are going to be some people who won't be able to get there for one reason or another. So we'd like to have it be as inclusive as possible. So if you still have questions, my email is on the Senior Games website. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I will put my email in the chat for people as well if you have other questions. Okay, back to you, Annie.
Okay, we have 2 questions, and then we'll get to you, Andrew. So Mara asks, she says, I'm 75 and have a treadmill. How far should I be running every day? And what is a good resource for preparing for track when the COVID situation is over?
I can try to answer that if that helps.
Great.
You know, there are 75-year-olds and there are 75-year-olds. A lot of it depends on your fitness level starting. I certainly wouldn't have someone who hasn't been doing anything run for a set amount of time. I would start somewhere. Whatever you've been doing, start there and then gradually increase the amount of time that you're on the treadmill. Also, same advice for the treadmill as outside. Don't just walk on the treadmill or run on the treadmill. Mix it up. Your body gets used to doing the same thing over and over again. And if you're trying to raise your fitness level, you need to do different things. I hope that helps.
Great.
Okay. Actually, it looks like this other question was from you, Andrew. So Andrew, who, by the way, good to see you. Andrew is also at the National Senior Games. So glad you could join us. So you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sure. Let's see. I remember those days reading track and field news when I was in high school, and instead of doing my homework, so I can relate to that, Dick. I would be covering up my science book with covering up the track and field news and trying to read my track and field news, and my mom would come in and I would quickly, hide the track and field news. But you talked about recreation and leisure. You kind of alluded to that and the idea of recreation. Can you speak a little bit more on how that relates to rest? And also, I'm thinking you were 68 Olympics, and is that correct?
Yeah.
And what are your reflections on social justice from your experience in the 68 Olympics?
Yeah, really good question. So, with regard to recreation, first of all, I really enjoy training hard, but one of the things that I've learned through a lifetime is that we go through cycles. And so even at the elite level, for any international competitions today, the athletes, if they have a really good coach, they learn about doing cycles. And so no question, I love working hard, training hard, breathing hard, sweating a lot. And because I would always I would feel so great from the endorphins afterwards. So to me, that's why I talk about is that in games we keep score, and usually when you're training, depending on what event you're doing, you're using some way of measuring, whether it's a timer, a clock, a tape measure for height or length. but we get to challenge ourselves and measure what we do, as long as you keep track of it and keep a log or a calendar, something like that. So I like to, that's the recreation part, is going out and having easy days, but looking forward to having some hard days also. The social justice it's just, we have not figured out the answers to this, but I think that sport is what we've learned is a bridge to help us communicate and be together, and learn the way that we're different, but the things that we have in common with each other to share. And so I'm really pleased that the IOC and the Athletes Commission are working on solutions for the athletes to be able to express and deliver their messages, and at the same time protect what the games are all about, and the competition and the ceremonies, I think, are really important. But we are figuring out, we are adapting and evolving and progressing so that we can learn how to share our messages and listen to other people. And so I'm still optimistic, even in the horrible times that we've had and the challenges that we continue to see in not all, but many communities. And we just need to work together, and playing games and the senior games and doing sports is one of our best outlets where we can continue to communicate with each other, share our dreams and share our fears, and work towards solutions for all of us. So thank you for the question.
Hey,
Well, thanks.
I just have one other question that came through that I'm actually going to answer.
Okay.
So Daniela was asking she was asking Linda, but she says she's always wanted to try some other sport. Is it too late to start at 75? And this gives me an opportunity to tell my very favorite senior games story. I went to the National Senior Games last year as a representative for California Senior Games Association, handing out t-shirts. And I was waiting for the shuttle bus back from track and field with an elderly couple. They had both, I believe, just won gold medals in shot put for the 90 and older category. Now, this woman was so beautiful. I'm like, I would never have guessed she was 90. But I said, my goodness, had shot put, have you been doing that like since you were a kid? And she said, no, I just took it up about 4 years ago because my knee went out and I couldn't power walk anymore. So that's somebody at 86, 87 taking up shot put. So it's never too late. That's the story I learned.
Well, that's great. I'm gonna wrap this up, and first of all, thank the Pasadena Senior Center for hosting us. I really appreciate, Annie, you and all your work. And my cohort in crime, Kristen Cummings from San Diego, thank you very much for your 2 ideas to do this thing. And I especially want to thank my colleagues and the guests on the show, which just really made us have a terrific kickoff. So Linda, Willie, and Dick, you guys are, as usual, fabulous and so enthusiastic about everything. I just love being with you. It lifts my spirits. And I would like to say to everybody on the call, Happy New Year. My very best wishes for peace, for hope, and for health in the future, and for looking forward to seeing you all at the next Senior Games competition. So keep on training. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone, so much. So
Thank you for all what you're doing for us.
Thank you. This is
and
wonderful.
See you at the track, Willie.
Thank you so much.
great,
Thank you.
very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
and
See you on the track.
Take care.
thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Great job.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And
Thank you,
Katja, if you didn't see, there were all sorts of messages to you on the chat, how you can follow up with everything. Did you see it? Good. Go for it.
Okay.
All right, good to see you all. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Good to,
It was
good to
great.
see you. Thank you, Jim. Glad you could make it. So I see little messages. Thank you, Sarah. It's nice to see people, even if we can't all be together. So take care, everyone. And thank you again, Linda. It's just such a pleasure to have you and everyone who took part in this. So I think I will now end it all for today. See you all next month. Thank you all so much.
Hi, Jim.